Hello fellow Blender Maniacs, Alex Quarterbard here. Welcome to this tutorial. Happy Friday. Today's Friday when I'm recording this. Hope you guys have an amazing weekend or whatever day of the week it is that you're watching this. In this tutorial, we're going to be taking a look at how to cut an orange or an object in half. Now, in this tutorial, I want to get the look and feel of actually the orange being actually cut in half, not the knife going through a solid object. So let me show you what's actually happening in the scene. Now, this video might be lagging a little bit because I'm recording, but you probably saw the original film at the beginning, which was playing at proper speed. So if I go here and play it frame by frame, you could see what's happening here. Well, actually, you can't really because the knife blade is in the way, so let me hide that. And then if I go here, you could see what's happening. We actually get a cut through the orange. How cool is that? So we're going to be actually focusing on doing that, making that cut type animation so that it looks like the orange is actually being cut. And then, of course, on the way, we're going to look at different materials, nodes, and also physics simulation to make the two halves, come apart and do that whole nice little animation there. So let's get right to it. I'm going to open on the tutorial page on the website, link on the description. There's going to be the starter.blend. So if we go to over here, open it up. The only thing that's on the starter.blend is the knife. So you could either use the starter.blend if you want to use the same knife, or you can model your own knife or your own sword if you want. But in this tutorial, I'm just wanting to save a little bit of time, so we're not going to be modeling the knife. It's quite simple. I mean, it's one of the most basic things in the world. All right, now, before we start, let's go get our texture for the image. We're going to go to a different website this time, not textures.com. I'm sorry, I'm cheating on them. We're going to go to Pixabay. Now, Pixabay is a great site. It's not too much of a texture site so much as an image website, but some images, you can use them as textures, such as here, we're going to search for orange half. We're going to get this orange half right here. As you can see, they're free for commercial use and no attribution required, which is awesome. And click on free download. You get some really nice quality images. I'm just going to download the 1920 by 1276. I already have it downloaded, so I'm not going to download it. But download that back in Blender. I'm just going to enable the screencast keys for you guys. And let's get started with a little bit of modeling. Deleting the default cube. Hitting 1 to go into front view. Shift A, add mesh, UV sphere. We're going to change the segments to 64 and the rings to 500. No, I'm just kidding. To 64 as well. Please don't put 500. So 64 on each of these. Cool. Now hitting R to rotate and then 90 to rotate 90 degrees so that now your vertices are like this. I'm also going to hit the smooth tab because who wants a bumpy orange? Not me. Bring this up above the grid floor. Hitting Shift A, let's add a mesh plane and scale that up. And then just bring this so that it's kind of like next to the ground floor. All right, cool. I'm going to get out of orthographic view, or I wasn't even in orthographic view, so scratch that. Hitting tab to go into edit mode. Alt right click the middle vertex loop. And you could actually make sure it's the middle one by hitting 1 and in orthographic view. Just making sure that it's aligned with the center origin point, which it is. Hitting the V key, which will rip your vertices. Right click to just leave them there. And then hit Control L, which will select all linked. And hit P and separate the, or actually we're not going to separate the selection, sorry, don't hit P. We're going to go to the Vertex tab. That comes later when we separate the selection. Go to the Vertex tab. Add a vertex group. And we're going to change the name of this to Orange. You guys can see I'm so excited. I can't even talk, like most of my tutorials, really. Orange right. And click on Assign. Cool. Now we've assigned these vertices to this vertex group, orange right. Hitting Control I to invert the selection. Click on the plus sign. Add a new vertex group. we're going to name this one orange left. Genius. And then click on assign. Cool. So now we got these two halves of the orange assigned to different vertex groups. In object mode, Shift S, cursor to selected. Make sure your cursor is in the center. And then Shift A, add in a lattice. And then hitting 1 on the numpad, 5 to go into orthographic view, and Z to go into wireframe. Just hit S, X, scale it on the X axis, and then bring it up above the orange like that. All right, now selecting the orange, going to the modifiers tab, add a modifier, lattice. Lattice modifiers and lattices are great. They have so many uses. We're going to change the object right here to lattice, and the vertex group will be orange right. All right, cool. Now that we have orange right, what this is going to do is it's assign these vertices to this lattice. Now, in order to get that cut effect, all we have to do with the lattice selected, hit tab to go into edit mode, C to bring up your brush tool, and just click on these vertices here, making sure that you get both of them. In front view, hit G and X and bring them along on the X axis so that it's right next to the other vertex, so that you get this kind of triangular shape. I forgot in math school what this shape is called. I think it's an isosceles triangle, but I could be completely wrong. All right, now what this does, if we grab this in object mode, hit G, Z, and let me go in solid view, G, Z, you could see that it gives it this effect of cutting our orange. The reason being is because right here where it's thick, it's basically fully together, and then it basically tapers off like this. And as we bring this through the orange, it's basically giving it the same effect of tapering it off like that. Pretty cool. Now let's do the other side. And you might need to bring this up above a little bit more because right now you can see it's still cutting through. So I'm gonna bring this up there. With the lattice selected, Shift D to copy that, just right click to leave it in the center, and RZ 180 to rotate it 180 degrees. Select your orange, add modifier, lattice, object, we're going to change it to lattice 001, and vertex group, you guessed it, orange left. Now if we select both of these, G, Z, you could see that it basically cuts through our orange. Now, it looks like a baseball bat is cutting through our orange. Yeah, I know, but it's still pretty cool. Come on. Another thing I'm going to do quickly, hitting the N key. With these selected, I'm going to lock the X and the Y location on that one and also on the other one. That way, now with these two selected, we don't even have to hit G and Z. We could just hit the G key and it will only go up and down on the Z axis. Cool. Closing that. Now, obviously, like I said, it looks like a baseball bat's cutting through our orange, unless that's the effect you want, or unless you have a really big knife. I don't want that. So with these two selected, we're just going to hit S, X, scale it on the X axis, and the thinner you make it, the thinner your slice. All right, cool. So that's that. I'm going to get out of orthographic view. Let's go ahead and make some textures. Selecting the orange, go to the materials tab. I almost forgot what it was called. Click new. By the way, make sure you're in Cycles Renderer, not Blender Renderer, Cycles Renderer. Click on Principled Shader. And then I'm going to hit the T key to close that. Split the viewport by left clicking and dragging on the bottom left corner. And change this to the node editor. I'm also going to select the lamp, click on use nodes, change it to sun, and change this to 3 or maybe 4 just for now, just so we have some okay lighting. All right, selecting the orange, I'm going to change this to rendered view. Also quickly going to enable my graphics card rendering, just so it's a little bit faster. All right, there we go. I'm going to change this to rendered view. And then we're just going to add some very basic orange texturing to this. Shift A, add in a texture, Veroni texture, or Veroni, however you want to pronounce this mysterious word. We're going to add this, Shift A, add in a vector, and we're going to add in a bump. Connect the color to the height, and then connect the normal right here to the normal there. And now it looks like a golf ball and an orange had a baby. Not very pretty. What we're going to do is just change the scale of this texture to 100. You could put it even more if you want. And then the strength here dictates the strength of the bump, obviously. I'm going to put this to 0.5. Now right now it looks more like moon craters because it's going inwards. So we're going to click invert. I didn't even click it. Let me try that. Take two. We're going to click invert. There we go. So it looks more like bumps. However, now it looks like hideous chicken pox. I'm going to turn this down a little bit. 0.4. And now what we're going to do is, to give this a lot more realism, increase the subsurface to 1. So subsurface scattering will basically let light penetrate through and scatter through the surface. And the subsurface color, we're going to change this to a nice orange color, clearly because we're making an orange. Lastly, we're going to change the roughness because right now everything's shiny. Roughness to about 0.5. So again, this is a fairly basic texturing of the orange. There's a lot more complexities. I don't think that's a word, but there's a lot more complex stuff we could do. But since the main focus is the orange cut in half and the whole animation part of it, we're just going to keep it simple, and it looks actually pretty good right now. All right, cool. Now, next part we're going to do, let's rename this material, by the way, to orange peel. We're going to add in that the orange half that we downloaded. Add a new material, click new, name this to orange half, there we go. Hitting tab to go into edit mode. We're going to right click one side of the orange, Control L, so that you have, it selects the linked and you have half the orange selected. H to hide that half. Alt right click this vertex loop, not that one, this one, the wrong one, this one. E to extrude, right click to leave it there. S to scale, Shift X to scale it on all the axes except the X axis. Bring it down to there. And then E one more time, right click, W, merge at center. And there we go. All right. Let's change this to from diffuse to principled, our favorite shader of all time, and change it to an image texture. Click on open and open that image texture, the orange from Pixabay. Now, what I'm going to do is hit Control with this vertex in the middle still selected, Control plus on the numpad to increase the selection, 3 on the numpad to go into side view, and then I'm going to change this to textured mode so we can see how it looks. Change this to UV image editor. What we need to do is also assign this to here. So clicking on assign, it will assign these vertices to this material. And then just hit U, unwrap, and then you could select your orange texture right there. And then because it's a little bit too large, you can see the texture there. I'm going to scale this down a little bit so that it fits within the orange. All right, that was easy. Let's do the other half. Alt-H to unhide everything. We're going to select this side that we already just did. Control-L, hide that side. Go on this side. Alt-right-click this vertex loop. Same thing that we just did. E to extrude, right-click, S, Shift-X. And then E to extrude one more time, right click, W, merge, at center. Then Control plus twice to increase the selection. Control 3 to go into side view on the other side. Assign it. you unwrap and scale it down a little bit. You might have to pause it depending on if I went a little bit too fast, but yeah, that's pretty simple like that. All right, cool. Let's see how this looks. Our orange. Now it's looking pretty nice. However, one thing you can see, it looks like it's already cut right there. It has like this cut look right there already. Simply what we're gonna do is just in edit mode, Alt H to unhide everything. Add in a loop cut right here. Bring it in really close. And add in a loop cut on the other half as well. Control R. And that will get rid of that. All right, cool. So now it looks like we have a whole orange. Pretty sweet, pretty sweet. I'm going to go ahead and save this file, save as. Saving is always a good habit. I'm going to save this as orange 2. And let's continue. The next thing, the cutting of the knife. All right, we're making pretty good progress actually. We're going to go to layer 2. Let me minimize that. Layer 2. Selecting everything here with the A key, and then hit the M key and 1 on your keyboard to move it to layer 1. There we go. I'm going to scale up the floor a bit. Cool. Now, with the knives, everything is controlled with the handle. And what we're going to do is, we want, as the knife goes down, for it to cut. Quite simply, all we're going to do is select both of these lattices, shift select the blade, Control P, parent to object. Now when we grab the knife handle and bring it down, you could see or not see, because we have the blade, that it goes down. All right, with the knife, what I want to do quickly is hit 7 on the numpad to go into top view and 5 in to go into orthographic view. I just want to center this so that it's right in the middle. Yeah, there. You can also hit G, X, and then hold down Shift to get more incremental movement, and just put it in the middle of the slice there. Cool. Now, selecting both of the lattices, shift right click, and then shift right click the blade. Control P, set parent to object. And now when we select the handle and hit G, Z, you can see that it cuts through there. Now, one thing, if we hit G and Z, the cut, right now, the cut of the orange is actually finishing when the knife goes through the floor. And also on yours, maybe when you hit G and Z, the actual cut is starting before the knife actually hits the orange. As you can see, that's happening right there. Quite simply, if you want the most precision on this, select both of the lattices, shift right click, and then SZ, scale these way down, and then just bring them down. SZ, scale this down so that it's just, the size of just the beginning of the blade, so that it has a lot more precision. And now when you hit G and Z, right when it hits the orange, it will start to cut, and right when it finishes, it will be done cutting. Now, this doesn't have to be in alignment with that. It could just be straight. That's fine. But again, make it thinner, but not too thin to where it's like completely flattened out. Otherwise, it might not work. But just about like that should work fine. All right, cool. So we're making good progress, good progress. Now, let's go ahead and kind of wrap this up by animating the knife and animating the cut of the orange, and then the rigid body physics so that the orange kind of splits in half and all that good stuff. All right, to do that, quite simply, what I'm going to do with the handle selected, on frame 1 right here, I am going to, let's see, I'm going to just hit R, X, kind of rotate it on the X, or actually, I'm going to leave it like this for now. I'm going to hit I, location rotation scale on frame 1. Then on frame 10, I'm going to hit also I location rotation scale. So from frame 1 to 10, it just stays there. Then frame 20, I'm going to bring the knife straight down, GZ, bring it straight down to right about there. And then also hit RX, rotate it on the X axis, and then bring it up a little bit. And then I'm also going to bring it forward a little bit, or a lot to exaggerate it, and then hit I location rotation scale, because I know me, at least when I cut, I kind of go forward with the knife. So right now what we have is basically that right there. Now what I want to do also from here to here, frame 10, I just want a little bit of movement in there. So I'm going to hit on frame 10 RX, just kind of rotate this forward a little bit, because usually when you cut, your knife, you don't cut with your knife straight. You kind of have it either forward or back, and you kind of cut at an angle. So there, and hit I location rotation scale. All right, so we basically have that right there, kind of like a little animated thing. Very simple, but it will do the trick. If I hit Alt A, you can see exactly what we got, and you could hit Shift left arrow, by the way, to go back to frame 1. But you can see what it does, and you can see the orange cut right there, which is pretty sweet. Pretty sweet. All right, now, how do we get this to split in half? That's the question. Well, quite simple. One other thing I want to do to kind of finish this orange as well. Let me save this first, Control S. I want to add the little nub here, just very, very quickly, just because you guys are going to be like, what about the nub? The nub of the orange, we missed it. All right, let's do the nub. Selecting the vertex here on the orange. I'm just going to, by the way, I'm on this side of the knife. I'm going to select this one, just bring this in a little bit like that. And then I'm going to add a loop cut, Control R, add a loop cut there. Right click, just leave it. And then I'm going to select 3 vertices of like 5 or 6 lines like this. All right, there we go. And then just bring these in, kind of create like that indentation thing. Alt right click this edge loop, Shift D, X, bring it up on the X axis, and then hit SX0 to flatten it out, E to extrude, and then right click S to scale, E to extrude, X, bring it up a little bit, F to fill in that face, Alt right click these vertices here, E to extrude, X, bring it in, and then select everything with the A key and Control N to get rid of those horrible normals right there. I'm going to select this, or just one vertex, Control L, and then Shift H, which hides everything except for that. Usually Shift excludes whatever other command you're doing. Hitting Control 3 to go into side view, 5 to go into orthographic view. I'm just going to give this a little bit more character by selecting these vertices here. Just bring them up. If you look at a reference of this on an image, it's got kind of like four sections to it usually. Again, just quickly doing this, just grabbing random amount of vertices, bring it out. All right, cool. Now I'm gonna hit Alt H to unhide everything, get it out of orthographic view. Select one vertex, Control L, select the linked, scale that down, and maybe bring it in a bit. Something like that. And then I'm going to add a new material. New. Name this Orange. I have no idea what this is called. I'm going to name it Orange Hub. Like a car. Change it to Principled Shader. Click Assign. And then we're just going to make this a greenish color. Alright, kind of went through that a little bit faster, but it's pretty simple. You could pause it and do that, as I don't want to focus too much on that little tiny part. Alright, let's get back to the good part. Now back to the good part. You guys who know that reference, you know that reference. All right. If I hit Alt A, I did not hit Alt A there. I hit Alt H. Alt A, you can see that we got that. Cool. Now, let's finish this up. I'm going to save this one more time. What we're going to do for the two orange halves and the splitting and all that, quite simple. We are going to select the orange, Shift D to duplicate it. Just leave it in the center by right-clicking. Now we have sphere 001 and sphere, which is our original. Selecting sphere 001, we're going to go and make sure to go to where your knife has cut through the animation. We're going to apply the lattice modifiers to sphere 001. Apply both of those. And then what we're simply going to do is, with sphere 001, once again, hitting tab to go into edit mode, we're going to select one vertex there, Control L, select the link, P, separate selection. So now you have two other halves. We have sphere 002, this half, and sphere 001, which is this half. Selecting sphere 002, or this half, hit Control Shift Alt C, everybody's favorite keyboard shortcut, and origin to geometry, which will make the origin point at the center of that geometry. Then selecting sphere 001, do the same thing, Control Shift Alt C, and hit origin to geometry. So now we have two sphere halves like that, which looks pretty cool. All right, and you guys might be hearing the airplanes outside because they are very loud. Now, what we want to do, we're going to be using the outliner over here. If I can expand it a little bit. The outliner, which doesn't get any love really too much. I mean, I use the outliner sometimes, but it's not a lot of time. So we're going to be using the outliner. What we want to do is let's go ahead and for sphere 001 and sphere 002. So sphere 002 hit H and sphere 001 hit H to hide those so that we just have sphere. Now, on frame 20 is when the knife has cut all the way through. What I want is on frame 19, I want this to be visible up until frame 19. So under sphere on the outliner, I'm going to hit the I, with my mouse hovered over the I, I'm going to hit the I key, no pun intended. Not really funny, but I'm going to hit the I key. It's going to insert a keyframe. And then I'm going to hit the I key also on the camera to insert a keyframe. So up until frame 19, it's going to be visible and it's going to be rendered. On frame 20, going to frame 20 with the right arrow, on sphere, I'm going to uncheck the I, hit the I key and the render as well, and uncheck it and hit the I key. So now we have this where it's visible up until frame 19, and on frame 20, it's invisible. Cool. Now what we want to do is the opposite with the other two spheres. On frame 19, hitting Alt H to unhide the other two spheres, we're going to now select the original sphere, just the original sphere. We're going to hit H to hide that. These two spheres are sphere 001 and 002. So on frame 19, we don't want this visible. We're going to uncheck the I and hit the I key to insert a keyframe. Uncheck the render, hit the I key. Same thing with sphere 002. Unhide these and insert a keyframe so that they are not visible on frame 19. Now on frame 20, where the other one becomes invisible, we're going to have these become visible. So we're going to enable these, hit the I key on both the I and the render. And there we go. So basically what's happening is from frame 1 until frame 19, we have sphere 0, just a sphere, the original one. And then on frame 20, the original sphere disappears, and now we have the two halves. Cool, and this is critical because the two halves, for the rigid body physics, you need to have two halves. Otherwise, it's just one orange and it's not really going to work. So there we go. That's how it works with that. And now, going to frame 20 where you have the two halves, let's actually make these rigid body physics by basically selecting this. Alright, selecting one half of it, go to the rigid body tab right here, and we're going to click on rigid body, which will make it a rigid body. Same thing on the other one, click rigid body, and these are active rigid bodies, meaning they're going to move around. With the knife, we're going to click on, or it already is right now, but make sure to click if it's not rigid body, and we're going to set it to passive. And the floor, we're going to click on rigid body and change it to passive as well. Basically meaning that the active rigid bodies are going to interact with the passive ones. Now, if we play this, shift left arrow to go back to frame 1, alt A, you can see, yeah, it looks kind of cool, but we got a couple problems. First problem, the orange is, spinning around like a bowling ball, and also it kind of like looks like it shoots out. Very easy to fix this. Going to frame 20 so that we're able to select these. Select either one, go down to damping. We're going to change the translation to 0.95. And then also on the other one, 0.95. What this will do is it will add damping. If I play it again, you will see that it won't, move around as much. It'll have more friction. But now we still have the problem of it kind of like shooting out. And the reason for that is because even though these are hidden from 1 to 19, the dynamic or the rigid body physics is still taken into account from frame 1 to 19. So what we want to do is we want the rigid body physics to only start taking into account when these become visible. Quite simply, on frame 19, where they're invisible, with sphere 001, let's uncheck dynamic so that there's no, and I actually want to do this one frame before, because it will give it a better look if it starts just one frame before. So what I'm actually going to do is on frame 18, I'm going to uncheck dynamic and hit the I key to insert a keyframe. Same thing with sphere 002, uncheck dynamic, insert keyframe. So from frame 1 to 18, there is no rigid body physics. Then on frame 19, which is one frame before they actually become visible, I want the rigid body physics to start one frame before they become visible, because it just, otherwise if it becomes active on the frame it becomes visible, it kind of has a slight delay, so this way helps with reducing that delay. I'm just going to enable dynamic and hit the I key, and same thing with sphere 001, enable dynamic and hit the I key with the mouse hovered over it. Now hitting shift left arrow, go back to beginning, hit alt A. You can see that now we got a really cool effect. How awesome is that? So that is pretty much it for the tutorial. Just a couple last things. As you can see right here, if I play this and go to rendered view, on my final scene, which I won't go through with this, but the final dot blend of this final scene that I had in the original animation will be on the tutorial page. You could download it and check it out. But basically, all I did for the final scene, I put in some environmental lighting. I changed the lighting a little bit. There is a sun lamp. I also put a plane with an emission light. Environmental lighting. I added a wooden cutting board, which is just a square with a texture, a marble flooring, which is just the floor with the texture, and then a glass of orange juice and some other 2 orange halves. However, what I do want to finish on this tutorial is adding 2 more textures to the orange half right here, because it looks a little too unreal because it's very shiny and also there's no bump. So what we're gonna do, quite simply, is once I split, whoa, not that. once I split my window, not merge it, there we go. I'm going to change this to rendered view. You could find these textures on my website, once again, on the tutorial page. I'm also going to make a tutorial. My next tutorial is going to be on how to make normal maps in GIMP, which is going to be really cool, as it's very useful to do. But for now, you can download these on the website, as I just made these quickly in GIMP. What we're going to do, we're going to add some normal map and a roughness or specular texture on this because it's too shiny. First thing, the normal map. And also, critical thing, you want to make sure to go to the Materials tab and go to Orange Half, as that is the material we're going to be adding these to. Don't make the same mistake I did before, putting it on the orange hub. Alright, Shift A, add texture, image texture, go to open, and just open the orange bump texture. Connect the color to the normal, and then change this to non-color data, as it's not a color map, and Shift A, vector, normal map, and drag this in here. So this basically gives it the illusion of bumps and crevices and all that good stuff, as you can see right here. However, right now it's a little bit too much, so you could turn down the strength to about like 0.2 or something like that. Cool. Excuse me. All right, too much talking, you know. Next, the glossiness. You can see it's way too shiny, reflective. You could increase the roughness here, but that just does the overall roughness. We're going to add a map, which gives you much more precision. Shift A, texture, image texture. Open up the roughness map, or the spec map, I guess it's called roughness or spec map. It'll be there on the downloads. Change this to non-color data and connect this to the roughness. And you can see that now the shiny parts will be dictated by the map, and the non-shiny parts will be dictated by the map as well. And that looks a lot better. All right, cool. So that is it for this tutorial. Let me go ahead and play this in real time so that we could kind of see. All right, it's gonna be a little bit slow, but you can see that it looks really cool. And then if we go here and just pause it halfway, we could also, select the knife, hide that, just so we could see what we got. Got the cut going through the orange. Looks awesome, looks awesome. And then, cool. All right, well, I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Make sure to share your results on BlenderMania3D.com on the forums. I would love to see it. Once again, you could download the final.blend on the tutorial page, and also the textures that we just did at the end, so that you could see just the lighting that I did and the rest of the scene. But it's really quite simple. I don't want to spend another half hour going over really simple basic stuff. I want to focus on this. And with that, my next tutorial will be on how to make normal maps in GIMP, and also specular maps and roughness maps and all that good stuff. It'll be a really cool tutorial. And make sure to check out BlenderMania3D.com and request a tutorial from me. I love doing tutorial requests because I want to make stuff that you guys want. Alright, also make sure to check out the contest. It's the last days for the contest. It's ending this weekend, I believe. Yeah. So with that, I love you guys. Ciao for now, au revoir, and I'll see you in the next tutorial. Alright, bye.